Natasha felt a shiver creep up her spine. Who was this man? He claimed to be a delivery driver, but Natasha had never ordered anything. She watched him peer into her windows and pace around her front yard. Every move he made, Natasha felt her heartbeat quicken. And then he saw him clench his fists, and his face went as red as a tomato. His piercing brown eyes locked with Natasha's frightened blue eyes, and he raised his large hands in the air. Natasha felt sick to her stomach. This delivery driver wasn't going anywhere. Hey there, story lovers. When Natasha Smith moved to a small town just south of Texas, she was excited about a fresh start, pulling up to her new home in her trusty car with 2 suitcases and her beloved cat Nibbles in the back seat. Natasha was ready to start afresh, but Natasha never could have expected that her fresh start would turn into something truly unimaginable, and it all began with a mere knock at her door. As soon as Natasha moved to her new small town, the townspeople welcomed her like she had been there all her life. They took an interest in Natasha, and she instantly felt like she was a part of the community. Her neighbors seemed like friendly folk. They always greeted Natasha with a smile and a wave every time they left for work. Everybody was super kind around her, or so Natasha thought. Living alone can be scary for some, but Natasha didn't mind. She enjoyed her own company, and she had her cat Nibbles with her, so she wasn't completely alone. Natasha was happy with her new home. It was just her and her cat that was all she needed. But Natasha had failed to consider the cons of living alone, until now, that is. It was early in the morning when Natasha woke up ready to start her day. She gulped down her coffee shot, fed her cat Nibbles, then headed out the front door for her morning run. With endorphins bursting through her body, Natasha sprinted around her new neighborhood thinking that today was going to be an ordinary day, but she was so wrong. Natasha arrived back home and let her cat Nibbles outside to wander around his new neighborhood. Natasha then jumped in the shower. The warm water surely felt good on Natasha's flustered skin. Then suddenly, as soon as she turned her shower off and reached for a towel, she heard a knock at the door. After slipping on a t-shirt, Natasha poked her head out of her bedroom window to see who was at the door. It looked like it was a delivery driver from Amazon, but then a terrible feeling hit the pit of her stomach. Natasha had never ordered anything from Amazon. Natasha was stumped as to why there was a delivery guy outside when she had not ordered anything. She watched this delivery driver peer through the windows and pace around her front yard. Then suddenly the delivery driver locked eyes with a startled Natasha. "Just leave whatever you've got at the door," Natasha shouted out. The delivery driver merely smirked before replying, "But it needs signing. The parcel needs signing." He looked at her, and she could see something sinister behind his brown eyes. She felt helpless and all alone. Natasha didn't know what to do. She just wanted the strange man to leave her front yard. But then, suddenly from her window, Natasha saw her cat Nibbles appear from behind a bush. The delivery driver asked, with an eerily creepy smile slapped between his cheeks. It was only when the delivery driver picked up Natasha's cat that she saw his large hands grip onto her feline friend, that she knew this delivery driver wasn't going anywhere. "Put him down," Natasha shouted. She was getting more and more worried now, and she could feel her heartbeat racing. With the delivery driver gripping onto her cat, refusing to not leave, Natasha felt sick to her stomach. "You need to let me in," the driver kept saying. Natasha knew what she had to do, but she was frozen in her tracks. Natasha could see her cat was getting more and more distressed in the delivery driver's arms. Then suddenly a neighbor appeared from across the road, shouting at the delivery driver. "Leave her alone," the old woman shouted. Quickly, the driver dropped the cat, jumped into his van, and raced back down the road. Natasha shouted thank you to her neighbor for helping her out, and she raced downstairs to retrieve her cat. As she cuddled her cat, Natasha let out a sigh of relief, thinking it was all over. But she was so wrong. For the rest of the day, Natasha was on edge, expecting the strange man to appear again in her front yard. But when the time reached 5 p.m., Natasha finally felt like she could relax. Maybe the driver was scared off. Natasha even checked her Amazon orders, but as expected, she never ordered anything. She fell fast asleep, hoping to forget all about the events of the day. day, but little did she know tomorrow was going to be even worse. Natasha woke up with the morning sun creeping through her windows. She snuggled her cat before getting up, ready to start another day. She made her way downstairs, but just as she reached the bottom of the stairs, she saw somebody was peering in through the window, and Natasha's heart stopped when she realized it was the same man from yesterday. Natasha could feel panic wash over her as she saw the delivery driver look through her window. Why was he back? What did he want? She never ordered anything from Amazon, so clearly this man was some kind of scammer or even worse, a thief. Natasha could feel her heartbeat in her throat as she watched the man outside. Thankfully, he hadn't noticed Natasha was watching him yet. Natasha knew she had to call for help. Slowly, she reached for her cell phone to call the cops, but as she grabbed it, it slipped out of her hands and fell to the floor, immediately alerting the driver. His piercing eyes darted straight at Natasha, and she knew there was no coming back from this. "I've got a delivery here, can you let me in?" the driver asked through the window. Natasha couldn't believe it. Was he being serious? "I recognize you from yesterday, leave me alone," Natasha screamed out. Natasha stood soaked in panic, but when she saw the delivery driver raise his large hand and smash it into the window, Natasha knew she had to make a run for it. Quickly, Natasha picked up her cat and ran out the back and far away from the delivery driver who was kicking the front door down. While she ran for her life, Natasha never looked back. She unlocked her back gate and ran to her neighbors until she dialed 911 on her cell phone. But would the police get here quick enough? Natasha waited at her neighbor's house while the police headed over to her house. She felt sick to her stomach with what had happened. The two neighbors sat awkwardly, clutching their cups of tea. Then a piercing knock echoed throughout the house. The cops had arrived at Natasha's neighbor's house and told Natasha they had been around to her house but ultimately found nothing apart from a trashed house. The man had obviously stolen whatever valuables he could find and then made a run for it. But how would Natasha carry on living in her new home? The police ensured Natasha's house would be watched by unarmed police officers and with CCTV around the neighborhood. The cops were confident they would get the license plate of the man's van. For Natasha, she knew she couldn't let this terrible event stop her from living her life. Although she had made sure her doors and windows were shut tight, she was determined to start a brand new chapter in her life. Did you like the story? Check out our channel for more.